Now, if you're planning on relocating to Minnesota, then I need you to avoid these 5 common mistakes at all costs, if you actually want to avoid being absolutely miserable. What are they, you ask? Stay tuned to find out. What's going on, guys? BrandonArchie here, aka your favorite Minnesota realtor, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 relocation mistakes that you need to avoid at all costs. But first, as always, before we get started, if you are thinking about moving to Minnesota, whether it be now or next year, then shoot me an email at brandon@archiehomesgroup.com so that we can schedule a meeting to talk about what it is you're looking for and put together a plan to make your move as smooth as possible. Now, let's get started. Okay, so starting off with number 1 in no particular order would be not starting the process early enough. Now, under normal circumstances when buying a home, I always recommend people starting that process about 3 to 4 months before the month that they actually want to be in their new home. And the reasoning behind that is because the home buying process from start to finish typically takes about 2 months in most cases. But when you add on top of moving across the whole country to a brand new state, then I would highly recommend adding a month or 2 just as a cushion. Now, the reason for that is because there is a lot more research involved when moving here from another state. The home buying process is more than likely different than you're used to in your state, and not only that, but looking at the home itself and actually the neighborhood will factor into the decision making as well. So it may take a little longer to decide on the right place, so giving yourself plenty of time to handle those things so that you don't feel rushed later will help you make the got a cramp in my will help you make the right choice. Also, I can almost guarantee that the housing market here is going to be different than the market where you currently are, and the time of year that you decide to move will play a major role in timing as well, especially when you have a home to sell before you can move here. So make sure that you're factoring that in. Now, number 2 is one that I always highly recommend doing, but isn't always something that people plan for, and that is planning a trip or 2 up here to explore different areas and really lock in on areas that you like before fully moving here. Now, each city here is going to have its differences, and some cities are completely different than others. But more importantly, you can only get so much info on these cities by reading articles and watching YouTube videos. Actually taking the time to go out and drive around these areas will give you a much better idea of which areas you resonate with more. Now, I personally know that I try my best to highlight the pros and cons of each city, but at the end of the day, what I consider a pro could easily be considered a con by you. For instance, I actually think our cold winters are a pro for a few different reasons, and most people hearing that right now would probably call me a nut job. On top of that, it's going to be a lot easier to find something that you're in love with when you're able to narrow your search down to specific cities versus looking for homes throughout the entire Twin Cities area. Now, I do understand that in certain situations that people may not be able to make that trip here prior to moving, and I have helped multiple people do just that. But just understand that you are taking a risk by jumping in blind. Now, moving on to number 3 is not thinking enough about the future in regards to not only what you want right now, but also what you may need in the future. So this one is a very important one that a lot of people don't think about until after the fact. Most people will typically only be concerned about what they need right now. For example, you may not currently have kids, so you don't really care about school district you're in. Or maybe you don't know if you're going to be in Minnesota long term or not, so you don't really care too much about the house that you're in, and you need to just get into anything as soon as possible. Well, what if plans change and you end up deciding to have kids next year, and now school district will be important a few years from now, but the school district that you're currently in isn't that good? Or you didn't care about the house or city that you were in before, but now what if you end up relocating again for a promotion at work? But the only problem is you bought your home in a slow moving area and now you don't have enough equity to sell it, so you're stuck. When moving to a new state, it's obviously important to think about what you need right now, but also be sure to strongly consider what your life is gonna look like a few years from now, and make sure that you include those possibilities into your decision making. Okay, so before we get to number 4, if you are finding this video helpful, then please make sure to hit that like button for me. And if you are looking for more content like this, then also please consider subscribing. All right, so number 4 is one that I've kind of mentioned a little bit in some of the other ones, but that is focusing too much on the house and not the neighborhood. Now, I think when buying a home, it gets easy to put all of your thought into what kind of house you're looking for, but you can buy a house of your dreams and it really won't mean anything if you absolutely hate the neighborhood that you're in. And chances are Minnesota is going to be a lot different than what you're used to in your current state, so there are many more factors to consider when choosing to make the move here other than just the house itself. Do you have to commute to work, and how far is that from the area that you're looking in? What are the school districts like in that area? What's the diversity like? Do you like the city lifestyle or the suburb lifestyle? Which, if you need help answering that specific question, you can watch this video here. And the many other questions that should be just as important as what kind of house you like. Because trust me, Each city in the Twin Cities is so different that you really don't want to make a long-term commitment, like buying a house in a neighborhood that may not work for you long-term. And the final one is choosing the right realtor. Now, I know that the second I said that, a lot of you automatically thought to yourselves, oh, here comes the self-promotion. But I can promise you that this isn't it. Now, I can tell you that when it comes to picking your realtor, the personality fit and working style are huge factors that determine which realtor you should pick. Now, some people and personality types just aren't meant to work together. And anyone that tells you that they're the best person for everybody is either lying or they just truly don't know their own weaknesses. But the biggest thing that you should be looking for when picking a realtor is how much experience do they have working specifically with relocation clients. Now, there are so many moving parts to moving to another state that you really want to make sure that you're working with someone who's done it before, especially because you don't want to be the guinea pig that's working with someone who hasn't. Now, you want someone who not only has good knowledge of the different areas in the Twin Cities, but you also want someone that asks you the right questions to help you figure out what's best for you and your family. Now, this list is a prime example of things that you may not even have considered until just now. And that's because these tips came from actual experience of helping plenty of people move here from not only other states, but even completely different countries. Now, I think that we can all agree that uprooting your life and moving somewhere new can be stressful, and you're putting a lot of trust in the person that you're working with. So wouldn't you want to work with someone who's dedicated an entire YouTube channel to doing just that? Okay, there may have been a little bit of self-promotion in there.